And the construction begins. The foreman arrives on the job with a clean vehicle, clean equipment, and professional personal appearance. Sort of an organizational or team persona. The foremen are visiting the job for the first time and will base their layout on the sales associate's notes. The standard practice for all free-form pools is to do a template layout. Each size and shape free-form pool that is sold is in its own container, and our construction foreman carries typically 4 to 6 of these at any given time. These covers are made from safety cover material and bound. The center pinholes are grommeted and strategically located in every template at the appropriate locations. The template allows you to reverse or mirror any layout within minutes without the confusion of multiple paint downs. Beyond the obvious advantages of a template layout is the fact that your customer expectations are clearly defined with regards to positioning and size. The foremen start with the offset from the home as agreed to by the sales associate and the homeowner. Usually, in most cases, a small voice recorder is used by the foreman to record his measurements. Remember, time is of the essence for a layout, and the permanent record can be transcribed back at the shop at the end of the day. This particular layout is a 16 by 32 Concord. The foreman first sets his 35-foot 5-inch center line. Then sets his center pin at 11 3 3/4 in this particular instance. Then the width pins are set at 15 11 3/4 for this pool. And then he will proceed to install his B, C, and D pins respectively. The square is checked, and an acceptable tolerance of 1/4 to 1/2 inch is automatic. The main advantage of this procedure and layout is the fact that not only are you laying out the pool for the customer and your installation records, but the dig is also laid out for the excavation crew, saving hours per day and resulting in 10 to 20 more pools dug per year. There is absolutely no reason that the excavation team needs to relay out any pool, whether it's free-form or straight wall. Here, the final dig reference point is being set. Caught on tape. This is a true story of a building inspector coming to inspect an addition and asking that proverbial question, "Where's your permit, fellas?" So we responded with that pool industry adage, "Well, sir, we thought the homeowner had it." Flag all pins for safety and cap all pins if you're planning to leave the job site for any given time. This is a one-man process typically, but in this case, a second sales associate was present. Paint the perimeter outline of the pool as a rough overdig guideline for the excavation team. The foreman will outline the plumbing trench for the excavator, so the trench will be deep enough for frost protection and so that the fence and sprinkler contractors do not hit them as the course typically goes. You need to pay particular attention so that the filter slab meets all safety codes with reference to window openings and combustible setbacks. Laser elevations, a one-man job, is truly simplicity at its best. It leaves very little room for error. Elevation setbacks from the pool location are also recorded. And a permanent benchmark taken on the home is put in the final construction record book. The records and all info are recorded on a 4-part layout sheet, so the excavators, installation crew, and masons all have the identical information, as well as one for the record book and computer entry back at the shop. Clearly mark the ingress routes with an arrow for septic, conduit, and other non-apparent ground conditions. It's now 9:30, approximately 1 hour after the foreman arrived. The excavation crew arrives. This particular machine is a Kobelco 70 SR 54 horsepower machine with an extended dipper and a 30-inch bucket. This machine has a set of swamp tracks and offers zero clearance swing, which is invaluable in most pool excavation situations. As the excavator arrives, once again, all layouts are complete and he is ready to start the dig. The lasers are set. The new benchmark established by the shaper. This particular day was 27 degrees and the ground a clay and gravel mix. The operator rarely gets out of the machine, and in most cases only for a centerline offset. The excavator strategically piles the dirt uphill and away from all access points for the concrete truck and any other access that is needed by the crew. As you all know, digging pools with an excavator saves a tremendous amount of time, as they offer such versatility. The shelf is established. And the operator wastes very little time and very little movement. The excavator now starts to go down into the hopper wall. The shelf is being rough raked by the shaper while the excavator continues to go down into the hopper. And approximately 10:30, the brake line is set and the strings are established within 1/4 inch tolerance for the installation crew. The excavation process of a swimming pool is usually cut in half with the use of an excavator in lieu of a loader backhoe. Here the shaper is marking the bottom pad dimensions while the operator comes up the brake. Working as a team, the shaper and the operator know their next move at any given time. If the shaper is in the process of pulling tapes and marking pins, the excavator moves on to something else and/or a different area of the pool. Very little conversation is involved. Here, the shaper is marking the end of the A wall. Which will prepare him to mark the center line. Shallow end and brake are both marked and pinned, once again within 1/4 inch tolerance. And the brake is X'd off with the same type of tolerance. At this time, the operator does leave the machine in order to establish the center line offsets with the shaper. This is typically the only time he needs to leave the cab. This is a shot of the plumbing trench starting at the shelf elevation below frost and gradually sloping to the filter slab. The final shelf elevations are set, and once again the plumbing trench which leads to the filter location and is large enough and wide enough for a man to work within. The shelf is now established and within tolerance for the installation crew to arrive. It is now 11:45, and the delivery crew has arrived. The delivery is the first impression that the customer usually observes and also pays for. So the importance of a neat, professional delivery is second to none. The job sign is delivered at this time and placed in front of the home. Here you see the back of the sign, which will be turned around to this side after the installation has been finished. The eye braces, steps, and prepackaged plumbing kit are categorized, as well as the panels, and are all placed neatly and nested together. When you show care in delivering your customer's new swimming pool, they will assume that this level of care will continue throughout the installation process. 12:30, the crew arrives. The panel layout is set and verified. Steps are in place. The crew will pull the plumbing and relax it due to the 25-degree temperatures that are currently on site. Every minute is used in prep work. Very little discussion takes place, and a systematic approach to every job is certain. The main drain is prepared for tomorrow's installation, and the eye braces are assembled. The panel installation is started, and all joints caulked with a 100% silicone. This caulking eliminates most floating liner problems. Literally 100% of all grit that the vac pulls past the tape, and gives an airtight vessel for a one vac set on any pool. The eye braces are set and the skimmer installed. Cordless tools during a pool installation are a must these days, as well as stainless steel set screws. All step units are plastic wrapped for construction and are not to be confused as a ladder during the pool construction. This pool is already to 1/4 inch tolerance specs, so the piping can be run through the I-beam chases, or doghouse as the installers refer to them. This type of piping installation in most cases is critical. Providing the foreman a walkable and workable plumbing trench is very important. It saves, but more importantly, creates time, which equates to more installs at the end of the year. A 70-unit crew saving 2 hours a pool equates to 6 to 8 additional installs per season. Not bad for digging plumbing trench with the machine. The step returns are placed here in an ST251 performance step. The pool returns are laid out and marked on the back of the panels. And the returns are placed 18 inches from the top of the panel, and a minimum of 6 returns, regardless of the size of the pool, are standard. Here we mix I braces with K braces where needed. Here the plumbing and braces are all in place. The panels will be pinned every 3 feet. And now that the temperatures are approaching the low 20s while the leaves are falling, the crew's about to call it a day at 3:30. Good morning. Another beautiful summer day in upstate New York. Well, the good thing is we only had an inch of snow last night. Crew arrives and readies for the first pour. First truck arrives, and it's a refreshing 13 degrees. At this time, I would like to take the opportunity to personally extend my crew's thanks to both Mark and Bill for the strategic scheduling of the shooting of this project. This mix is our pool mix, which many dealers have started to use. Today we use a 4% polar set added to the mix due to the temperature. The first truck is always used on the sloped walls. The balance of the truck is used filling the braces, and while filling the braces, any spillage becomes part of the collar. The value of a good driver is clearly evident, as one can fill a brace from 40 feet away. The main drain is set, and all the pipes encased. The bottom is rough floated. And the filter slab is poured, edged, and company name imprinted on the front corner. "11 a.m., the second pour arrives, and the flats are next. The typical bottom is 2 to 3 inches thick, and when the crew is done, the finish flawless. Here the mix being placed in the shallow end is bull floated, and the chute placed on the slope in order to eliminate any spatters on the sidewalls. Try to place most of your mix uphill of its final destinations so it easily is pulled down the slope. Here a bull float helps the crew knock out the shallow end with a matter of minutes. As you will see, the first pour is already hard enough to place a ladder against. Now the crew starts to hit the mix with steel pool trowels in order to obtain a final finish. finish that you see here will be hit one more time in order to blend pour 1 with pour 2. A new day. The coping here, RC200, is used to match the gray steps. The coping is installed and caulked. This is extremely important to eliminate any bleed water permeation from the deck mix and a proper liner set. The filter is set and plumbed. And the walls are scraped and brushed. The filter and bypass are in place, and the wall joints are now ready to be taped. The coping that had previously been glued when it was put on the top of the wall is now having its perimeter edge caulked as well. Coping screws are installed 6 to 9 inches apart. The liner is set in place and ready for installation. Placed in the shallow end, which has been cleaned first. One thing I will tell you, this was not a Duo Max day. The hopper is being prepared while the liner hangs in the shallow end, taking advantage of whatever sun there was this particular day. Here, the steps are dry cut. And the fiber optic cable installed. This particular liner set is being done with 1 vac in extremely cold conditions. And I think you would admit that the final liner set after 1 attempt is very impressive. And our hats are off to the liner shop. The bottom is extremely smooth and can be walked on without fear of abrasion to the liner. The drain is cut and the pool left to fill. 8 a.m. the following morning. The backfill begins. At this particular pool, the operator chooses to use a bucket with teeth to easily penetrate the frost layer. Typically, a grading bucket would be used in soil such as this, but again, due to the time of year, the alternative was to use a bucket with teeth. The rough backfill is completed, and a 2 to 3 yard pile of dirt is left until the spring for the settling issue and the installation of the deck, so we are not delivering small loads of dirt to each and every pool. The backfill will soon be complete and the temporary fence reinstalled and a temporary cover placed on the pool until March. The sign is now ready to be turned, and another Pacific Graphics pool is in the books.